The alien arena was filled with light, noise, and cruel laughter. Thousands of glowing eyes looked down from seats made of steel and crystal. The crowd came from many species, all gathered for one reason. They wanted to see a human fail. Humans were not respected in this part of the galaxy. They were taken as workers, slaves, and test subjects. Their weakness was a joke for stronger alien races. Tonight was another chance for the crowd to laugh at human limits. In the center of the arena stood a young human. His name was not shouted. No one cared to know. To the aliens, he was only the human, a fragile body waiting to be crushed. The air was heavy with the smell of dust. Oil and strange alien spices above the arena. A giant machine hummed with power. It controlled the trial, the gravity field that could crush stone into powder. The trial was simple in words, but deadly in truth. The human must walk across the arena floor as the gravity increased step by step. No human had ever made it to the end. Many had died with broken bones and silent screams. The announcer, a tall insect-like alien, raised its thin arms and shouted, "Prepare for the gravity trial. Witness another human fall to the ground as they always do." The crowd roared. The young human looked around. His eyes were calm. His body was thin, but his stance was strong. He had scars on his arms, marks of battles and survival. He did not speak. He only breathed slowly like a soldier before war. A group of alien children laughed and pointed. "He will fall in the first step," one said. Another added, "Humans cannot rise. They only crawl." Their parents nodded in agreement, confident in human failure. The gravity machine activated. The sound was deep, like thunder rolling inside the ground. The floor glowed red as invisible weight pressed down. The human's body shook for a moment, but he did not fall. He took one step forward, slow but steady. The crowd cheered with cruel excitement. They did not cheer for him. They cheered for the moment he would collapse. The announcer laughed. "Watch closely. This is how weak flesh breaks," but the human did not break. His legs trembled, his spine bent slightly. But he pushed forward, his eyes looked up, not down, as if he was staring beyond the arena. Beyond the stars, memories flashed in his mind. The black void of space. The screaming sound of a ship tearing apart. He had once been caught near a black hole. His body had felt forces no alien could imagine. Gravity had tried to crush him then. And he had survived, he whispered to himself. Words too soft for the crowd to hear. Gravity bends to me. Not the other way around, step by step. The weight grew heavier, the floor tilted. The arena designed to break bones and hope. The young human's breathing grew louder. His heartbeat echoed in his ears. But still he moved forward, one step at a time. An alien warrior in the crowd frowned. "This is not normal," he muttered. His companion hissed back, "It is only luck. Humans cannot last." But doubt had entered their eyes. The announcer tried to keep the crowd's mood alive. "Look, he struggles. He will fall soon." But his voice no longer carried the same power. The arena grew silent, step after step. The human refused to collapse. His body shook, sweat ran down his face. But his eyes never lost focus in that silence. A young alien girl whispered, "He walks, when even my kind would crawl." The words spread like fire. The crowd that came for laughter now leaned forward in silence. The impossible was happening. The human reached the halfway point. The ground around him glowed brighter. The gravity pressed down with enough force to crush steel. His knees bent, his chest almost touched the floor. But his hands pushed against the invisible weight. He forced himself upright again. The silence broke into whispers. The crowd was no longer laughing. Some were afraid, others amazed. The human, nameless to them, had already done what none of his kind had ever done. And still he walked forward. His voice a low growl. "We are not made to crawl. We rise." The arena that had always been a place of human defeat now carried a different sound. Not laughter, not cheers, but the echo of footsteps. Human footsteps that defied the stars themselves. The crowd leaned closer as the human pushed forward under the crushing field. His every step echoed in the silent arena. The machine raised the pressure again. The floor glowed brighter. The invisible weight doubled. The air felt heavy even for the spectators. Yet the human still stood. Alien nobles whispered from their jeweled balconies. "This cannot be. No human has ever lasted this long," another replied. "He is already broken inside. We just cannot see it yet." But though they spoke with confidence, their eyes betrayed doubt. Down below, the announcer's voice trembled, though he tried to hide it. "Observe, people of the stars. A fragile human attempts the impossible. His insect-like mandibles clicked nervously. This was not how the trial was meant to go. The spectacle was built for humiliation, for cruel entertainment, not for this dangerous silence of awe. The human's arms shook as he reached forward. His breath came in heavy gasps, but his eyes did not lower. Every step was war, every heartbeat a hammer. The weight crushed against his bones, yet he remembered worse. He remembered the black hole that had almost claimed his ship. He remembered clinging to life when space itself bent around him. He remembered that he had not surrendered then, and he would not surrender now. The gravity field shifted again. The floor tilted, rising on one side, sloping downward on the other. The pressure tried to drag him sideways, to slam his body against the walls. Bones of past humans were still there. Broken skeletons crushed into the cracks. They were silent witnesses of failure. The human stumbled once, his knee struck the glowing stone. The crowd gasped. Some began to laugh again. See, he will fall. He cannot rise again. But then his hand pressed against the burning ground. He pushed slowly, trembling. His arms shaking like branches in a storm. Inch by inch, he stood back up. The laughter died, replaced by uneasy murmurs. The young alien girl from before clutched her mother's arm. He rose again, she whispered. Her mother frowned, her eyes unsettled. Be silent, child. He is only delaying the end. But the girl's wide eyes did not look away. High above, alien generals watched from a private chamber. Their armor gleamed, their voices low. If a human survives this, what will the colonies think? What will the slaves believe? One of them slammed his clawed hand against the table. No human must win this trial, it would spark rebellion. The human did not know their words, but he felt the weight of their fear. He could see the shifting eyes in the crowd. He knew this was bigger than himself. This was not just his trial, it was humanity's. Every step he took sent a message into the hearts of those who watched. The machine groaned, shifting into its final settings. The announcer raised his trembling voice. Behold the last stage, the weight of mountains, the crush of stars. The air burned, sparks rained from the machine's core. The arena floor shook like a world about to break. The gravity came down like a hammer. The human spine bent, his ribs strained. His muscles screamed in silence. He could not hear the crowd anymore. He could only hear his own heartbeat. He felt the crushing force trying to pin him forever, telling him to stay down, telling him that humans must crawl. But he refused. He thought of Earth, blue skies he had not seen in years. He thought of the children who were told humans were weak. He thought of the chains he had seen around his people's necks. He thought of the black hole again, where all physics had said survival was impossible. Yet he had lived. He gritted his teeth, his lips curled into a defiant smile. His voice cut through the heavy silence. I will not bow. Step by step, he forced his foot forward. His body trembled as if it would break apart. But still he moved. His hands opened wide, not crawling, not begging, but rising. The sight was unbearable for some aliens. They covered their eyes, ashamed or terrified. Others leaned forward with awe, their voices hushed. The alien announcer could not speak. His mandibles clicked, but no words came out. The trial had become something else, no longer entertainment, but history. The human reached the 3/4 mark. His vision blurred, his lungs screamed, but he pushed on. The crowd began to chant. Not all, but enough to echo. At first it was soft, confused, then louder. Rise, rise, rise. Alien nobles frowned. Why are they chanting for him? But they could not stop it. The fire had already started, the young girl whispered again, louder this time. He does not crawl, he rises. And her words spread like a spark. The human raised his head, sweat falling into his eyes. He saw the end of the trial, so close yet so far. He had already done what no human had done before, but he was not finished. His steps echoed against the heavy silence. Footsteps of defiance. The galaxy had come to laugh at a human's fall. Instead, they were watching the rise of something far greater. The arena was no longer the same place it had been when the trial began. It was not laughter echoing now, but silence. Silence filled with fear, awe, and disbelief. The human walked forward under the crushing weight, every movement like a war. His body trembled, his shoulders bent, but his spirit never bowed. The machine screeched, its gears glowing red as the gravity level rose again. Sparks danced in the air. The ground shook, trying to pin the human forever. The alien announcer whispered into the crystal mic, his voice weak. This, this cannot be. From the balconies above, alien merchants leaned forward, their faces pale, their golden rings clinking as their hands trembled. One hissed, "If he survives, our slaves will no longer obey." Another whispered, "It is already too late." The seeds of rebellion are planted, the human's vision blurred. Darkness pressed at the edge of his mind. His chest felt like it was caving in. His breath came in broken gasps, but still, he placed one foot in front of the other. Each step was louder than thunder to those watching. In the crowd, the young alien girl pressed her small hands against the railing. Her wide eyes shone like stars. "He will make it," she whispered with certainty. Her voice carried. Other children turned to look. For the first time, the children were not mocking, they were hoping. The alien guards shifted uneasily, their weapons in hand. Their orders clear: if the human survived, he must not be allowed to inspire others, one of them muttered. "Shall we end him now?" another growled back. "Not yet. If we stop him before he falls, the people will never believe he failed. We must wait." The human felt the danger, not just from the crushing force, but from the eyes watching him. He knew survival was not enough. He had to prove something greater. He had to turn this trial from humiliation into legend. With trembling arms, he raised his hand and pointed upward at the galaxy beyond the dome. His voice cracked but carried across the arena. "You think gravity holds us? But humanity was born to rise beyond stars." The words fell heavy into the crowd's hearts. They were simple, yet they shook like an earthquake. Even those who hated him could not ignore them. The announcer's mandibles clicked in frustration. "Do not listen, he is breaking. He speaks madness," but no one laughed. The floor tilted again, this time shifting like a wave beneath his feet. The human nearly collapsed, his knees slamming into the burning ground. The crowd gasped, some shouted, "Fall! Fall!" Desperate to see the end, but slowly, painfully, he pushed himself back up, his teeth clenched. His body screaming in pain, he rose again. A silence deeper than before spread. The young alien girl cried out, "He rose again!" "He cannot be stopped." Her words lit a fire. The whispers spread from mouth to mouth. "He rises, he rises, he rises." Even those who wanted him to fail felt their voices weaken. Their certainty crumbled because they were seeing the impossible. The alien champion, a towering warrior bred for war, stood at the edge of the arena. His body glowed with tattoos that shimmered under the lights. He clenched his fists, anger burning in his eyes. He had been waiting for his moment. This was supposed to be his victory, to show human weakness. Now it felt like the human was stealing his destiny. He stepped forward, his voice booming. "Enough of this spectacle, let me finish him." The crowd gasped. Some cheered, some fell silent. The announcer seized the chance, shouting, "Yes, the champion enters, let the people see true strength." The human lifted his head, sweat dripping down his face, his eyes locked on the massive figure approaching. He knew this was not the end of the trial. This was the beginning of a greater battle. The alien champion stepped into the gravity field, his body barely shaking as the weight pressed down. He was built for this. Trained from birth to endure the crushing force, he sneered. "You have survived longer than your kind deserves. But now you face me." The human's lips curled into a faint smile, his voice low but steady. "I don't face you. I face the limits you believe in, and I break them." The crowd roared, divided between fear and excitement. Some shouted for the champion, others whispered for the human. The air itself felt alive, charged with tension. The machine howled as the gravity reached its peak. The ground cracked, dust rising in clouds. The arena seemed to groan under the strain. And in that storm of pressure, two figures stood, one alien bred for power, one human forged in struggle. The impossible ascent was not finished, it had only just begun. The arena trembled as the alien champion stepped fully into the trial field. His tall frame gleamed under the harsh lights, muscles carved like steel. His skin was covered in dark, glowing tattoos that pulsed with power. Each step he took pressed cracks into the floor, yet the crushing gravity hardly bent his stance. The crowd roared in relief as if their faith was restored. "The champion will end this nonsense," they cried. The human stood opposite him, his body shaking, chest heaving. His scars glistened with sweat. His knees bent under the force, but his eyes never lowered. He stared at the alien like a man staring at a storm. "Calm but unbroken," the announcer shouted, his voice regaining strength. "Now, people of the stars, witness the true test. The human who dares to rise will now be crushed by the chosen warrior of this station. The crowd cheered wildly, desperate to believe again in alien superiority. The champion raised one massive hand, curling his claws into a fist. You have walked too far, human. This is the end of your rise. His voice was deep. Shaking the air, he lunged forward faster than his size suggested. His fist slammed against the ground where the human had stood. The stone cracked, dust exploded upward, but the human had moved. His body screamed in protest as he leapt aside. Rolling under the weight of the gravity, his breath burned in his chest. But his instincts were sharp, he whispered to himself. Not strength alone, precision. Timing, the champion struck again, each blow like thunder. Each hit leaving holes and fractures in the glowing arena floor. The human dodged, barely, his body dragged by invisible weight. His ribs ached, his arms shook. But he refused to fall from the balconies. Nobles leaned forward. He cannot last, he will be broken soon. Yet their voices carried less certainty. For every time the human should have been crushed. He found a way to move. The crowd's cheers grew confused. Some shouted for the champion. Others gasped at the human's resilience. The young alien girl pressed her hands together, her voice trembling but hopeful. Please rise again, she whispered, the champion growled. His glowing tattoos pulsing brighter. He shifted his stance and the gravity itself bent around him. His species was bred to manipulate the crushing field. He pulled the human down with an unseen force. The human's body slammed to the floor. His arms spread wide, pain shot through him, the weight nearly breaking his spine. The crowd roared with satisfaction. He falls, but the human's eyes stayed open. His breath was weak but steady. Slowly, painfully, he pressed his palms against the burning floor. His arms shook like glass about to shatter. But inch by inch he lifted himself again. The champion snarled, striking down with his clawed foot. The human rolled, barely escaping. His shoulder burned. Blood running, yet again he refused to stop. He rose to his knees, then to his feet. The arena went silent for a heartbeat. No human had ever stood against a champion before. The announcer's voice cracked as he forced words out. Rise if you wish, but he will destroy you. He is strength, he is power, you are nothing. The human wiped blood from his lip. His voice cut through the silence. Strength without will is nothing. Power without purpose is hollow, the champion roared. Charging forward like a beast, the human braced himself. His hands steady, his eyes locked. He moved not with brute strength, but with timing. At the last moment, he shifted, letting the champion's momentum slam into the floor. The impact shook the entire arena. Cracks spread like lightning. Dust filled the air. The crowd gasped. Some even cheered for the human now, their voices mixing into chaos. Rise, fall, rise! The champion stood again, furious, his pride wounded. You dare make me stumble? His glowing tattoos blazed brighter. Gravity rippled across the arena. Even spectators felt the pull. Cups and banners shook in their hands. The human staggered, his legs shaking. Yet his lips curled into a faint smile. I do more than stumble you. I prove you can fall. The words cut deep. The champion's rage boiled. He charged again, his fists raised. The human stepped forward too. Not retreating this time, his fists clenched. His body screaming in agony, but his will unbroken. The clash was no longer about survival. It was about destiny, the human against the champion, resilience against raw strength. And in that moment, the crowd understood. This was no longer a trial. It was history being written with every strike. The arena thundered with the sound of two worlds colliding. The alien champion swung his fists like meteors crashing into a planet. Each strike carried the crushing weight of the gravity field. The human ducked, dodged, rolled, his body screaming under the strain. Yet he did not fall. His every breath was fire. His every step a rebellion. The crowd was chaos. Some shouted for the champion to end it. Others whispered in disbelief. For the first time in living memory, voices rose for a human. Children chanted softly, Rise, rise, while nobles hissed at them to stay silent. The champion growled, his voice deep and sharp. You cannot win, human bones are weak, your body is already breaking, he charged. Claws slashing through the heavy air. The human blocked with his arms, pain exploding down to his spine. He was flung backward, his back striking the glowing ground. The pressure nearly pinned him flat. For a moment it seemed finished. The announcer raised his arms, shouting, The human has fallen, the trial ends now. The crowd erupted, desperate for closure, but then slowly, painfully, the human pushed himself onto his elbows. His bloodied hands pressed against the burning stone. His voice cracked but firm. "Not yet." Gasps rippled across the crowd. He stood again, broken yet unbowed. His chest heaved with fire, his ribs ached, his skin torn, yet his eyes burned brighter than the lights above, and then the past returned to him, memories flooding as if the gravity itself pulled them from his mind. He saw the black hole, the endless void pulling his ship apart. Metal screaming, alarms blaring, his crew already lost. He had been alone, pressed against a force strong enough to crush mountains into dust. He had no weapons then, no allies, only his will. And in that impossible storm he had discovered something. He had survived not because of chance, but because he had learned to bend, to move with the impossible instead of against it. His body had been broken 100 times, but his spirit had not. He remembered clawing his way back to life. He remembered promising himself, "Never again will I bow to any force." Back in the arena, he lifted his head. His lips curved into a blood-streaked smile. He whispered loud enough for the champion to hear, "You think strength is only muscle? You think power is only force? You are wrong," the champion snarled. Confused and enraged, he charged once more. Swinging his massive arms, the human did not retreat this time. He stepped into the attack, his body twisted, not resisting the gravity but flowing with it. His movement was sharp, precise, like a blade sliding through armor. He struck not with brute force but with timing and skill. His fist slammed into the champion's side where the tattoos glowed weakest. The impact sent a shockwave through the alien's body. The champion staggered. His eyes wide with disbelief, the crowd gasped. He heard him. The words spread like fire. For the first time the champion looked uncertain. The announcer stammered, "Impossible, this cannot be." But his voice lacked conviction. The human pressed forward, each movement painful but unstoppable. He struck again, another precise blow. This time the champion fell to one knee. The arena shook with the weight of his fall. Dust swirled around them. The nobles shouted in anger, "Stop this! This cannot be allowed." Guards gripped their weapons. Unsure, the people in the seats leaned forward. Unable to look away, the young alien girl's voice rose above the noise. He rises, and soon children echoed her, their innocent voices louder than all the noble protests. The champion roared, forcing himself back up, his pride burning hotter than his strength. "I will crush you, I will end you." His tattoos blazed. The gravity spiked. Even the stone beneath them cracked. The human's knees shook. Blood dripped from his lip, yet he did not falter. His voice rang clear through the storm. "You do not understand, champion. I do not fight with strength, I fight with survival, with will. With something you have never known." The champion charged once more. His fury blind, his steps like quakes, the human met him head-on. His body a storm of scars and endurance, his strikes precise. Cutting through openings the champion did not guard. The clash sent shockwaves, stone broke, lights flickered. The machine itself groaned as if unable to control the storm it had created. The human's hidden strength was no secret anymore. It was there for all to see. Not in his muscles, not in his scars, but in his refusal to fall. His defiance became a weapon sharper than any blade. The crowd realized it too. Their voices rose, mixed, chaotic, fearful and awed. "Rise, rise, rise," and in that moment, the galaxy's laughter turned into something else. It turned into a witness of history. The human had survived the black hole, and now, he was teaching the stars themselves what survival meant. The alien champion roared like a beast of thunder. His tattoos burned brighter, glowing lines pulsing with raw energy. He had never been struck down before, never humiliated, never forced to his knees. Rage consumed him. His heavy fist shook the ground as he advanced. The crowd trembled with him, some in fear, some in anticipation. The human stood opposite, his chest heaving, blood dripping from his brow. His legs trembled under the unrelenting gravity, but his eyes stayed fixed, calm yet defiant. He had no glowing tattoos, no alien power coursing through his body, only scars, sweat, and an unbreakable will. The announcer shouted desperately, "Witness the champion! Witness the true power of the stars. The human cannot last another strike." But his voice wavered. His own eyes betrayed doubt. He too felt something shift in the air. The champion charged, his body a storm of fury. Each step cracked the glowing floor. Gravity bent with his rage. The human waited, his breathing steady despite the fire in his chest. At the last moment he moved. His body bent with the gravity instead of against it. His fist cut through the storm like lightning. The blow struck the champion's jaw. A sound like thunder rang across the arena. The giant staggered backward. Stunned, the crowd gasped. Some covered their mouths. Some screamed in disbelief. A noble shouted, "No! This is forbidden!" But no one silenced the echo of that strike. The champion bellowed, his pride forcing him upright again. He swung wildly, his power shaking the ground. The human ducked, twisted, rolled. His body screamed in pain, but his movements were sharp. Precise, each dodge was a rebellion. Each counterstrike a message. The crowd began to chant softly at first, then louder. "Rise, rise, rise!" Their voices thundered louder than the announcers' cries. The sound filled the arena, shaking the nobles in their jeweled seats. The champion howled, his fury blinding him. He leapt high, forcing the gravity field to crush downward in a final, killing blow. His claws aimed to tear the human apart. The human looked up, sweat dripping into his eyes. His lips curled into a grim smile. "You think I am bound by your rules, by your limits? But gravity has no claim over me." His voice carried through the silence. His body moved, faster than any believed possible under the crushing field. He stepped into the champion's strike, turning the impossible into his weapon. With a roar that shook the station itself, the human slammed his fist upward. His blow carried not muscle but defiance, not power but survival. It struck the champion square in the chest. The glowing tattoos flickered, then shattered like broken glass. The alien's eyes widened in horror. His breath caught. The massive figure collapsed to the floor with a crash that echoed through the galaxy. The ground shook, the dust rose, the human stood tall, trembling, broken, yet unbowed. The arena fell silent. No one moved, no one breathed. The announcer's voice broke. "The champion has fallen." His words barely a whisper, yet every being heard them. The silence cracked, the crowd erupted. Some screamed in fear, others in awe. Children shouted, "He rose! He rose!" Guards looked at each other. Unsure whether to act, nobles shouted orders, their voices drowned out by the thunder of the people. The young alien girl leaned against the railing, tears in her eyes. "He is not weak, he is not slave. He rises." Her words spread like fire. And soon the chant began again, louder, unstoppable. "Rise, rise, rise!" The human raised his head, his voice hoarse but unshaken. "You thought we were made to crawl. You thought chains defined us. But humanity does not bow, we rise beyond stars." His words thundered louder than the gravity machine, louder than the noble's anger, louder than the champion's fall. They echoed into the hearts of every spectator, planting seeds of rebellion, seeds of hope. The nobles panicked. "Stop this! Silence him," they screamed, but no guard moved. Some guards lowered their weapons. Some even looked at the human with quiet respect. The tide was shifting, power slipping away from alien hands. The human stood in the broken arena, sweat and blood staining the stone. He did not raise his fists in victory. He did not smile in triumph. He only breathed, steady and calm, as if this was only the beginning. He whispered to himself, "This is not for me. This is for all of us." And above, in the vastness of the galaxy, the stars shone brighter, as if bowing not to gravity, but to the will of one defiant human. The arena was broken, dust rising from shattered stone. The champion's body lay still, his glowing tattoos fading into darkness. Around him, silence turned into a storm. The crowd that once laughed now screamed, not in mockery but in awe, fear, and awakening. The announcer's mandibles clicked uselessly. His voice failed him. For the first time in the history of the station, there was no script, no ending prepared. Only chaos, only truth, nobles shouted from their balconies, their jeweled robes shimmering. "Silence the human, kill him now. Do not let this spread." Guards tightened their grips on their weapons, but their eyes betrayed hesitation. Some looked at the fallen champion. Others looked at the human who still stood. Battered but unbroken, the chant began again, louder than before. "Rise, rise, rise!" The words rolled across the arena like thunder. It was not just children now. It was voices of every kind. Aliens who had never spoken for humans now shouted in defiance of their rulers. The young alien girl pressed her face against the railing. Her eyes wet with tears, she whispered softly, yet the words carried in the roar. "He has shown us the truth. Humans do not crawl." "They rise," her mother tried to silence her, but even she faltered, caught in the tide of belief. The human lifted his head, sweat and blood dripping into his eyes. He did not smile, he did not raise his fists. He simply stood tall, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. His presence alone was enough to shake the galaxy. The nobles panicked. This cannot be allowed, end him. Now, but when the guard stepped forward, their weapons shook. Some lowered their rifles. One dropped his entirely. "I cannot," he muttered. "He has earned more than death," the announcer tried again. "This is not victory, this is trickery, the machine must have failed." But his words fell flat. No one listened. The machine still hummed, its lights burning. The truth was undeniable. The human had risen where no one else could. The human's voice broke through the storm, low but sharp. "You called us weak. You called us slaves, but tonight before your eyes, humanity stood. Humanity rose, and we will never bow again." His words echoed like thunder, carried by the arena walls, carried into the hearts of every being who listened. Far away, across other colonies, whispers began. Word spread faster than light. A human defeated the champion. A human defied gravity itself, slaves heard it. Prisoners heard it, even soldiers heard it. And something ancient and dangerous sparked hope. In the shadows of the station, hidden humans who had watched from the cracks clenched their fists. "He has done it," one whispered. "He has broken the chains with his rise." Their eyes lit with fire, ready to act, ready to fight. The champion groaned on the ground, but he could not stand again. His pride was shattered, his power broken. The human walked past him slowly, not with triumph, but with respect, he whispered, so only the fallen warrior could hear. "You are strong, but strength without will is hollow." Then he stepped forward into history. The nobles screamed for order, but their voices were drowned. The crowd was alive, unstoppable. Some cheered in awe, some cried in fear, but all of them knew. The galaxy had changed. Nothing could erase what they had witnessed. The young alien girl looked up at the human, her small voice trembling. "What happens now?" He glanced at her. His eyes tired but burning, he answered softly, "Now, we rise together." And in that moment, the arena was no longer a cage. It became a seed, a spark, a beginning. The fall of the champion was not the end. It was the birth of something greater. The human stood beneath the vast dome, the stars glowing beyond, his body broken, his spirit burning brighter than suns. He whispered to himself. Rising beyond the stars was never a dream, it was destiny. The crowd roared, the chant unstoppable. "Rise, rise, rise." And the galaxy listened,